there was a controversy last week where State Representative Michelle DuBois, Democrat from Brockton, she had alerted people through Facebook of what she said was an impending ICE raid the following day. She later said it was based on rumors, but afterward, the Bristol County Sheriff, Thomas Hodgson, claimed that she's violating the law and she could potentially go to jail for a maximum of 5 years. What's your opinion on that?
Well, I think that over the last couple of months in particular, there has been a lot of talk about immigration. I can't remember the exact date when the president proposed his first travel ban, but that really led to a lot of discussion, a lot of commentary, a lot of statements, and frankly a lot of fear and anxiety across a lot of communities here in Massachusetts and around the country on this issue. A lot of questions for law enforcement, and you see, I mean, this has been a topic of major discussion. So a lot of people have made statements. You just mentioned a couple of those. From where I sit right now, I'll tell you that a couple things are really important to me in my office. We've worked very hard in law enforcement to build trust with the communities that we serve, and that includes immigrant communities. And one of the great concerns I have about where President Trump is going on some of this is that he's not doing it in a way that's very mindful of public safety. What do I mean by that? We've got ongoing investigations and cases where we need the cooperation of witnesses, we need victims cooperating, we need that kind of exchange of information. And if you create a situation where people are either afraid to come forward and report crimes, they may be crimes against children, they may be crimes of domestic violence, or they may be related to human trafficking, drug trafficking, gun. We don't need people driven underground and afraid to come forward and cooperate with law enforcement in the way we want them to. So that's the first thing, that some of this has had the direct and opposite effect of fraying some of those communications and ties with law enforcement and actually undermining public safety. Now, it is and has been the case, at least here in Massachusetts, that I see in talking to local departments and officials and chiefs and sheriffs that we share an interest in making sure that those who are a danger to their community, those who have committed crimes and are not here lawfully, are held accountable. We regularly respond to ICE detainers and work and in cooperation with and in communication with federal authorities on these issues. And I think if we had been asked before this went out, we would have told the President and the Attorney General just that. But unfortunately, we've got a situation where a lot of fear, anxiety, needless fear, anxiety, and confusion was created, led to a lot of public statements, a lot of pronouncements out there. And I think it's important that we continue to do our job in law enforcement. I'd like to have more support, frankly, from the federal authorities for some of the work that we're trying to do, particularly as it relates to the opioid crisis and drug trafficking enforcement. But that we work to support our immigrant communities here who have made tremendous contributions. I just think about this area alone. You know, I went to the Azores 2 years ago now, right? It's like I finally saw like the door and understood why the streets have the cobblestone the way they do, you know? I was like, oh, it was there first. Okay, so I get it. So, you know, and that's just one example. You think about the rich history of immigrant communities here in the South Coast and southeastern Massachusetts, but across the state. And sadly to me, I see any number of immigrant communities right now, immigrants scared and afraid. You know, anecdotally, we started to get reports that people were afraid to send their kids to school or afraid to take their kids to a community health center or the doctors. That's not good, right? That's not good for the health and well-being of young kids or our communities. We actually sent out guidance to schools just reminding them that all kids who are here, they're entitled to a public education, and schools have been very good and responsive about getting that message out, but that just shows you some of the real fear. I mean, I've had people from hospitals and community health centers talk to me about patients being afraid to come in, and how concerned they are as healthcare providers that people are actually avoiding care right now, and that's not good either. But that's unfortunately some of the environment that has been created in the last 3 months. So we're going to continue to do the work we can out of the Attorney General's office and try to bring about a calm as I say, continue with the work that we need to do.
What about alerting the public about impending immigration enforcement operations? Do you see that as a legal thing or as an illegal thing?
Just speaking in broad terms.
Yes.
I mean, that was not. I disagree with the sheriff's statement. People are entitled to First Amendment protection. You all know that better than anybody. So, I think that what it does show, though, is the degree to which this is on people's mind, the degree to which people are registering this. This is an issue. This is something that our communities and community members are feeling or experiencing. And you see, there are two different statements, two different examples, but you see people, elected officials, commenting and speaking to this issue. So I just speak for myself, and I just told you where I am on this issue, that unfortunately there's been an unnecessary denigration of immigrants and immigrant communities. And I think about the work of immigrants and immigrant communities, particularly in this area, but across the state, and that saddens me. And I think about kids who are afraid, and that saddens me. And I think about the actual real life work that goes on in law enforcement, the coordination between state and local and federal officials day to day on a range of issues. And I'd like to see more focus and attention on how we can support those efforts and leverage resources for the betterment of our communities.